Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Thursday edition of the Mark Mosey Show podcast, as we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life, even if it's 9,000 degrees outside. Yes, here in Florida. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Now, joining me from Tim Island, and I like he has a Florida Today shirt on. I like this. He is a man of the people. He is Tim Walters. Tim, how you doing today?
Doing great. I actually felt like dressing like a traffic cone, so that's why I'm in this colored shirt.
Oh, I thought of you after the last couple of days being there in Tampa for media days, where I met John Sumrall, and I saw him work the room and all that stuff. I thought of you where we were there in Vieira with the Space Coast Gator Club a couple years ago with Billy Napier, the former coach, and you and me did a kind of one-on-one conversation with him. And I liked Napier. He was great one-on-one. And I'll always remember when he talked to the Space Coast Gator Club, I was like, this guy has no presence in the room whatsoever. And again, I like Coach Napier. I do. And good luck at JMU. But then seeing Sumrall with that big bravado and that big personality, and it looks like he's going to tackle an alligator at any moment. Like that's just, he has this energy about him and backbone, and like he understands it's a young man's game and you're going to have to work 24/7. I loved it. It was night and day, the difference. I'm believing the hype. Now, can he coach? I'll find out. But dude, you talk about winning a press conference, winning a room yesterday. Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up. What's your impression now of this coach?
Yeah, you stole the term I was going to use, winning the press conference. A lot of these guys are going to win the press conference. There's a reason they're head coaches in the SEC, because they've had success in the past. They're big guys, big egos. They think they're the best. But what it boils down to is that product that they put on the field. And I believe the Gators were voted to finish, ninth, I believe it was, in the SEC, which tells me you can win all the press conferences you want. But if your team's not ready, he doesn't know who his starting offensive line is going to be. He doesn't know who his quarterback is going to be. I mean, look, this is going to be a team that's going to, week 3 is going to be against Auburn when they open SEC play. Auburn has USF's coach. USF beat them last year. Auburn has USF's quarterback. That quarterback beat them with USF last year. So Auburn seems like they're already a leg up on the Gators. And that's not a good thing, Mark, when you face a 9-game this year SEC schedule. So I'm worried about my beloved Gators. It's 30 years since they won their first national championship. It's 20 years since Tim Tebow joined that team, and then they went on to win 2 national titles. It's been a long time since this team has accomplished greatness, Mark. And, I worry about this year too.
Look, I'm with you 100%. I joke about this all the time. I've been here since 2013 watching Gator football. I've never seen them win the SEC. I'm now on my 5th coach. 5th coach. That is insane. I mean, all right, you, since you went to college there many moons ago, you had Spurrier, Ron Zook, Urban Meyer, then Muschamp. Then you went on to the ride that I've been on here, where it just goes on. Mullen, McElwain, you use Napier. Now this guy. But I feel like, and I was saying this yesterday, and I will say it to you, if this guy can be a winner, he will be a star in the SEC. He will be one of the big personalities. But you're right. And I went on other radio stations this morning. I made this point of, like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. You're right. We don't know how this team's going to perform until they get out there. There's no spring game. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. All right. So my question for you is the cliche. If you have 2 quarterbacks, does that mean you have 0 quarterbacks? Isn't that how that usually works?
Well, I mean, let's look back to Spurrier. He always seemed to have 2, except for when Danny Werfel finally won the job, but he was competing with Terry Dean. And then after that, you had Jesse Palmer, and he was, competing with Brock Berlin, I believe it was. And then you had Rex Grossman. I think he was also competing for a short time with Brock Berlin. Brock always in there battling with people. Doug Johnson. No, that's who it was. Doug Johnson was in there in the mix in 97 or 8 after Werfel was done. And, Jesse Palmer eventually took the job from him. They always seem to have 2 quarterbacks. but can you find the one you want? Now, I haven't seen enough of Aaron Philo, who I guess would have been the starter at Georgia Tech as he stayed, but instead he followed his coordinator to Florida. I've seen quite a bit of Tramel Jones Jr. He was a high school star at Mandarin in Jacksonville, same high school that Carson Beck went to. And look, he looked okay at points last year when they actually played him over the struggling DJ Lagway, but he looked really green. Now, I know that Sumrall talked about the offensive line and how he came in and he didn't think they were strong enough and moving weight around, and now they're moving weight around. But then he says he doesn't know who's going to be starting. Well, if you've got that problem, it's my understanding that Philo isn't near as mobile. He can't quite make things happen the way Tramel Jones does. But it also sounds like Philo's got the inside track because he might be a little bit better of the pocket passer. You just don't know. And you've got 2 weeks to figure it out, because you've got 2 weak opponents to start the season. But then, like I said, then you get Auburn. So you better have this stuff figured out, because you do have the luxury of 2 preseason games. And then let's see what happens after that.
There's that saying in sports radio, you can't go on and say, I don't know. You have to have an opinion. But I will say this, I'm with you. Again, we haven't seen anything. He's not coached the game. We don't know these quarterbacks, O-line, like you're saying. All right, here's what was fascinating. I want you to know this. So when he was at the podium talking, Sumrall, in the back of that gigantic ballroom, you had the different ESPN sets for, like, SEC Nation and Sports Center. So one of them had Nick Saban on there. And while they're doing the actual press conferences, they're not on the air. And then when the press conference ends, then they go on and they react about it. So you've seen this in person, Tim. Other anchors, they're like looking at their phone when they're not on. They're talking to a producer, all that stuff. Saban was sitting there watching and listening to every word of John Sumrall. He wants to see what this guy's all about. And you start to forget, like, you know what? Saban is the GOAT of coaches in our lifetime for college football. This guy's the godfather. He was interested. And I don't know if you saw the video. Sumrall goes on ESPN and Saban's like, I'm a Florida resident now. And I'm kind of going to be rooting for you. I thought that was funny. But, like, that was fascinating to me. Like, yeah, we know what Lane Kiffin's like. We know what some of these coaches are. Who's this guy? That's what I found. I wanted you to know that. I thought that was fascinating. It really was.
Well, I think a lot of Florida fans are just like Nick Saban, because, until the 11th hour, everyone thought Lane Kiffin was coming to Florida. And then we did that crazy dance. And then next thing you know, you blink and John Sumrall, who? What? Before he was named the head coach, could you have named one thing about John Sumrall? Of course, none of us could. So he is just as big an unknown as the offensive line and the starting quarterback. And that's not a good place to be. It used to be Florida was one of the 2 or 3 teams where you knew who the coach was, you knew who the stars were, who was going to be competing or winning the quarterback battle. But now, what do I got? I got 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions from Philo in an orange and blue game, and 2 touchdown passes from Tramel Jones Jr. in a spring game. And that's it. They're playing themselves against admittedly weak offensive and defensive lines and such. So I hate saying I don't know, but if you can give me a better conclusion than the one I've come to, I would love to have it.
I liked where he said also, the guy does not hold back. He's like, wait, why are we playing Texas for a 3rd time? Why are we not playing Tennessee? He's right. They're going to play at Auburn, and people were telling me they haven't played at Auburn in over a decade or so. It's because there's so many teams in the conference, you can't keep up after a while. All right, you know what's funny also you just brought up? They did have a spring game, but it wasn't on television, so no one saw it. So that's why my brain says there was no spring game. So thank you for clarifying that.
If a tree falls in the wood and no one's around to hear it, did it happen? That's kind of how the spring game was. They could have made up those numbers. Tramel, he threw for 6,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. It's like we'd all be like, wow, I wish I would have seen that. Nope, no video. Sorry.
You'd be very proud of me as a sports editor. So Jaden Baugh took one of the podiums at 9:15 in the morning. So I got there at like 8:55. I got there early, And I sat in the front row, and the guy who's running is like, "Are you Florida media?" I was like, "Yep, yes, I am. I live in Florida, and I talk to this team nonstop." He gave me the microphone first, and I asked Jaden Baugh flat out. I was like, "Look, dude, I'm sorry I have to start with a tough question. Why did you decide to come back to Florida?" Okay, because no one is allowed to ask him this question. So I got the first question in, and then he gave me the answer, and it's on my social media, especially on Facebook. You want to see it, and he's like, "Hey, I want to be a Gator. I want to come back." He's given all the great answers. He didn't say the part, the money was probably good as well, right? Yeah, and I'm happy they did. And he's, he likes the coaching staff. Good, good. I want to be a Gator. I want to compete out. Good, good. You want to be a star. There's a huge fan base. I liked what he said. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, and then he took off his jacket and his shirt was made of feathered $100 bills. It was fantastic. But
you're jealous. You are.
I do love that you asked that question, though, Mark. I mean, that's a gutsy one because, if you don't ask that first, if you ask that a few in, you might get them walk out of the room, but you can't do that on the first question. So kudos to you. That's a great job. A lot of guys would be too scared to ask that question. And sometimes they'll even tell the media before things go live not to ask certain questions. And then as journalists, a lot of us would anyhow. But I think that that's commendable of you, Mark. So I'm actually proud of you for saying that. I think that Baugh gave all of the right answers. You're right. I do think that without him, the Gators would probably be picked 13th in the SEC instead of 9th. So, he certainly elevates them. But, that offense, I just, it's going to be like watching the Dolphins with Devin Achan. It's like, what the heck is that offense going to be except for the one running back who's going to be getting his brains pounded in? Everyone's going to know where things are going to go.
All right. This is a journalism thing real quick. And I'm talking to the Jedi Master for this type of conversation. So there's media from all over the Southeast. So it's just like a scrum in two different rooms where you got to ask as many questions you can. So it's like we finally get the opportunity to talk to the Florida players and coach. But then they hand the microphone and and I respect every journalist, but it's like, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. I'm from College Station. Now, what are your thoughts? No, I finally get a chance to ask them the question. Don't stop it. And it was weird where, because of the transfer portal, you had people from other, like I said, they're from Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. So they're asking current players, like if they're on Florida or Bama, hey, you had a former teammate and they transferred to our school now. What do you think of this guy? What? Dude, that's the reality now. What did you think of your former teammate who's now going to be your enemy on the other team? What are your thoughts? Those were the questions you had.
Yeah, the thing is there are a lot more media entities out there, right? And they, the PR people can't filter through all of them. It's no longer the few trusted sources or the beat guy that's been in front of you for decades. So there's that problem. I'll give you a good example of this, Mark. Earlier in the week, the communications director for the Jaguars, it's a guy I've known for many years. He used to be with the Nationals. It's a person who trusts my opinion. And he reached out to me and said, I got a request for a media credential for X media company, right? Yeah. He said, have you heard of this? What is this? And I said, well, I have heard of it. I explained to him what X media company was, but then I thought about it a minute and I said, I have dealt with these people, and I said, they've got a lot of good young journalists. And I said, so here would be my advice. I can't say what kind of job they're going to do, but if you're a young guy and you're starting out at a smaller entity and then you get a Jaguars credential, that's going to really bolster you as a journalist and your career. So it is going to be a big boost. So I recommended, hey, give these guys a shot. See how they do this year. If you don't think they did what they were supposed to do, you don't have to give them a credential next year. I do think that the media relations people for the Gators, for NFL teams, should kind of keep stock of this to make it a lot more manageable, because you don't know what guys are going to ask. Sometimes they do ask, let's say inappropriate things. And so dealing with this new media world, it's not just you're dealing with the daily newspapers and TV stations and radio stations. You're dealing with all of these other things, and you don't know what they are. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard moving forward because, you're in a press box and you see these, weird things, and maybe they're not conducting themselves like you're used to seeing people conduct themselves. It's a changed landscape. So, I'm glad that they said to you, hey, you're a guy in Florida media who's covered them. I'm going to let you ask the first question. That's a good step forward.
Thank you. I've been through a lot of pain. When it comes, I'm sorry to say, and that goes to Gator Nation as well. I've seen a lot of interim coaches, press conferences, and look, you know this, dude. It's not your first rodeo. Hey, new coaching staff. We really are buying in. And this guy's got it. And, we're hitting the weight room and the conditioning. I mean, it's like high school football as well. We got a lot of senior leadership on this team, and the young guys are coming along. I mean, I get it. You got to give us those, but I had to ask the question. That's my job. I had to ask that. Why did you come back? Because I wanted to be a Gator. Great. I will say this. I want you to look good. I'm not a gotcha reporter. Sometimes I don't want to be that. I want you to look good because my job is to get that word out to the people. And the people want to yeah, great. So I just wanted you to know that, right? Jaden's a great guy. And you know what? Feed him the ball this fall. Feed it to him 20 times a game and run it down people's throats. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, the problem is everybody knows that's going to happen. So, there are plenty of schools that are going to be able to stop him. That's the problem. I want to see a good wide receiver breakout. I want to see a quarterback actually step up and want the job. And I want to see if these offensive linemen who 3 months ago weren't strong enough. I mean, what kind of food and weight regimen did they put them on that now they're strong enough 3 months later,
Okay, see, that's interesting because we discussed this, I think, 2 weeks ago. So now you have the 5-year rule. You get them for 5 years, and then that's it. So it's interesting. We had red shirt. Everyone knows red shirt. We'll red shirt them. We'll put, we'll bulk them up. They'll get them ready for their second year, and then they can play. No. And you even had, all right, he'll play 4 games. Then we'll sit him down. So there's no more red shirts. You have to play them right away. And if they ain't playing, I'm hitting that transfer portal. Sorry, got to go. So it's fascinating. It really was. Go on. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say somewhere that 9th year tight end that played for Miami a year or two ago, he's like, whoo, just made it.
Yeah, that's all. I think those are finally over. I know you had the pandemic year as well. I think it's over. Yeah. The Van Wilders are done. You're not you're not doing it. So the funny story I'm going to tell you is so we had a party. I'm sorry, I'm rubbing it in. So last night, sorry you were not there. We got on a charter bus. We're downtown Tampa by the convention center at this waterfront Marriott. It was very nice, right? A little too expensive for Mark Moses' salary. But we get on these charter bus and they're like, hey, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to host you for a private event. So that was cool. Hey, so we got on a bus, we're the football players. And you're like, all right, we're going to go over to the stadium. So you had all these people on the bus, media members from the Southeast. They've probably never been to Tampa before. Because why would you? It's not, there's no SEC team here. So, dude, I thought of you so we're on the bus and it's really nice downtown. And then we keep driving. And everyone starts getting quiet. Where are we going? Where is this stadium? What is happening here? And you're like, this, what? And I'm the only one in that bus that knows, me and the bus driver. Yeah, we know what part of town we're going to. Rundown house, strip club, what? And you could tell everyone was a little shocked by where that stadium is. You're like, what is this? I started laughing. I was like, yep, welcome to real Tampa, buddy. Here we, just like in Jacksonville. There's be like, wait a minute, where am I? Oh yeah, you're in the real Jacksonville now, buddy. So that was funny. And what's the mascot's name? Captain Fear? Is that it? for the Buccaneers? I think so. So you walk in, they had like the party posse, if you want to call it that, and then the mascot. I took a photo with him. Oh, whenever I get a chance, I got to take my photo with the mascots at Nitro, Albert. Doesn't matter. Hey, got to take it. Even Pete the Panther at Florida Tech, got to do it. So I had to take my photo with the Buccaneers. So we had fun. I'm sorry you weren't there, buddy.
Maybe
Sorry
you need to go zip lining with Jackson DeVille.
No, that isn't. Would you do that if you had the opportunity? Would you?
No. I might. I mean, I've ziplined over the alligators at the zoo. Why wouldn't I want to zip line over the stadium in Jacksonville?
You actually did that.
It's a ball. I love doing that. If you've never gone and done the zip lines at the Brevard Zoo, you have to do that. It's cool to cruise over the gators like that.
Wow. The other one is it appears you're manlier than I am. I just learned this because I'm not doing that. I bump into. I had to go to the bathroom, and it was like maintenance guys were in there, so we couldn't go. So all of a sudden, this giant, tall man who I know, I was like, I've seen this guy on TV. So Gator legend Chris Doering bumps into me, and he's like, "Hey man, I got to go to the bathroom." So do I. That's the first time I ever talked to Chris Doering. Is that we had to go to the bathroom. So we start talking, and I took a photo. Yeah. How you project me that you think I'm 6'4". That's Chris Doering. He really is 6'4". Nicest guy. And then I bump into Danny Werfel, your boy, and I was like, "What are your thoughts on Sumrall?" And he goes, "Hey, I was on the selection committee. The interview process." He's like, "Yeah, look at this. Yeah." That was his. Yeah. And I'll end with this. I think he's underappreciated. I think time has gone by. And I get it. Look, it's been 30 years. That guy was awesome. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He was the quarterback of the Spurrier Fun and Gun. They destroyed people. I love Danny Werfel. I'm one of his biggest fans. And I don't think he gets the praise like he should. That's just my opinion. How about you?
No, look, Mark, I couldn't agree more. Yes, I was there at Florida when he was stewarding them to that national championship. The year that they lost to Nebraska first in 95, and then the year after in 96 when they actually won the title. I've met Chris Doering too. Yes, he is very tall. You could see why he was a wide receiver and why he did so well. But I've also, and I've told this story, I believe, on this show before, but I'll tell it for the audience who might not have heard it. The first time I met Danny Werfel, I was in the center of campus at a building called Turlington Hall, which is right by the Century Tower that everybody knows. And I was in a 2-hour block history class, and the teacher was Dr. Blakey. And during the 2 periods, they would give you a 15-minute break, and some students would go out and smoke a cigarette or get a snack or whatever. So I was just actually standing out there chatting with Dr. Blakey, and along comes this guy who really was not that much taller than me. He looked very fit, but he walks up and he shakes his hand. "Hey, Dr. Blakey, how you doing? Hey, Dan, how you been?" Called him Dan, not Danny. "Hey, Dan, how you been?" And he pats him on the shoulder, goes, "You ready for this weekend?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm ready to go. Take care, Dr. Blakey." He walked away, and I thought maybe he was the kicker. I looked at him, I go, "Dr. Blakey, Dan, who is that? Is he on the football team?" And he looked at me like I had 2 heads. And he said, "That's Danny Werfel." And I was like, no. But I was at a game where, look, blowouts are blowouts by good teams versus bad teams. And I think Florida State had 77 points a year or 2 ago. I watched the Gators score 82 on a terrible team. And I was in the upper bowl in the swamp, and I watched that entire game. That's back when they had Riddell Anthony and Ike Hilliard and Jaquez Green and Fred Taylor and Danny Werfel. And they had the freak. Javon Curse. I mean, that team was uncanny. They were just so good. And to be able to see all of their home games and be there the year they won the national title, I loved it, Mark. So Danny Werfel, he will forever be in my heart, and I will forever be the 19-year-old idiot that didn't recognize him.
When I think of those guys, if you ever go to Atlanta to the College Football Hall of Fame and you take the tour, and it's really cool, and they have all these like interactive displays, and all the great players and coaches, they like come on the screen, they start talking to you. It's like out of Star Wars. It's really cool. And the most proud I ever was Steve Spurrier shows up on the video screen and he starts talking to you. And he goes, "I'm Steve Spurrier. I am from Florida. I played for the Gators, and we got famous for my fun and gun offense." And I was so proud because, like, that, what is your contribution to the sport that those teams put them on the map? I think it's awesome. I really do.
Yeah, when I was a young journalist, I was way too scared to ask him a question in a press conference because he would humiliate the veteran guys. So I wasn't going to jump in there with my questions. But one of the funnier stories, and I have a picture right up here on my wall of me and the old ball coach. He came to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex several years back. So I went to that and, I was covering it, but I was also looking forward to meeting him. And, when you're there, everybody gets to take their picture with coach. And so, I got my picture taken with him, which was cool. But then he's going around taking pictures, and the photographer, they come back to me and he goes, "Oh, coach, you got to get your picture." And he looks at me and he goes, "I already had my picture taken with that guy." And then he walked on. I was like, it was such classic Spurrier. It was wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, it just means more. Okay. It's funny. Last week we were talking World Cup soccer, and now we just went college football for 30 minutes. So there you go. Check out this guy, Florida Today newspaper, and he's throughout the whole state. He's the man, the myth, Mr. 321. He is Tim Walters. Thanks, buddy, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mark. And everybody look this Sunday in the pages of Florida Today and at floridatoday.com because I will have my Who's Coaching Where in high school football. I do it every year for Brevard County. This year, we've added the 2 coaches with the 8-man teams at Merritt Island Christian and Calvary Christian. So we have a total of 18 head coaches, 16 varsity, and 2 with the 8-man teams. I go over which coaches are new, who's been in what job, how long. And so if you want to learn about all of the high school football coaches, see photos of them, learn about them, then you have to check out Florida Today on Sunday. And Mark, this upcoming week, we're going to start deluging people with not only high school football, but all of our upcoming high school sports. We've got previews that are going to be coming at you for volleyball and swimming and bowling and golf and you name it. So it's that time of year, Mark. We're going to start rolling it all out as we're about to touch August in the calendar. So I always appreciate you giving me this forum. And as I love to say, I love it when a plan comes together.